It feels like he has been trudging through the snowy plains for hours by now. His breathing is getting fast enough for him to notice, and his legs are going tired too. He looks over to Bubbles, who, to his surprise, has been quiet most of the time, preferring to stay snuggled against his neck. Normally they are quite an energetic bundle, so this is unexpected, but a welcome turn of events. Well, not going to complain about that, he says, as he slows down and scratches their head. Don't worry, we'll be there soon enough. As he takes a short break, he gazes at the distant mountain, whose increasingly odd form dominates the otherwise featureless horizon. Really looks less and less like one. Now that he is getting closer to it, he can finally make out some of its larger features. For one, its shape is rather extraordinary. The mountains he knows from back on Earth are usually wide at the base and taper towards the summit, but this one looks almost a bit geometrical. Its base is the broadcast point as well, but the shape doesn't make any sense. It's almost like a huge basalt column that's just sitting in the ground at a considerable incline. So much that it looks impossible to even remain standing instead of falling over from the gravitational forces pulling on it. Towards the top, there are a few inexplicable concentrations of snow as well, as if it is dotted with countless ridges, but sadly he is still too far away from it to make out anything more than that. How does it even stay up? He asked himself as he looked at the paradoxical peak. Probably fed up with the cold weather, Bubbles makes a few annoyed sounds at him. Alright, I see. Break's over. Apparently content that their journey finally continues, they let out a small chuff and bury their head in his collar again. You're already more human than some people I've met, he ruminates as he trudges on. Quite a while later, the mountain has grown tall enough to completely overshadow him. It is probably even taller than some of the skyscrapers he walked by in New Vienna. Only a few dozen meters separate him from the imposing structure at this point. The bright sunlight gets refracted by the huge mass of ice that's built up towards its base, creating a mound-like structure that looks like it holds the huge piece of rock in place. He is not so sure about it being a simple mountain anymore. Of course, it could very well be a lone pillar of basalt or something alike, but the surface texture and its colour tell a different tale. Plus, why would there be a lone basalt column out here in these snowy plains? The closer he gets to it, the more questions come to his mind. Everything about it is weird. Even Bubbles seems to have noticed something about it, as their head is trained on the very top of the huge structure, all of their 6 eyes scanning for something. They let out a nervous huff, their warm breath visible in the extremely cold air that has been stinging his face the whole time the two of them went on this trip. What is this? He wonders. Why is it slanted so much? What are those weird shapes on its sides and top, and why is it the only mountain around? It is far too thin to properly support its weight. It reaches more than 100 meters into the sky, but its diameter is way less than even a single 100. Countless questions come to his mind. Slowly, he keeps walking closer to it, and he believes to make out something in its side. Is that a cave? He asks, unsure if he is seeing correctly. It looks like a crack in the icy formation toward the bottom, barely large enough for an adult to fit through. Curious, he keeps walking closer toward it, but Bubbles keeps getting more and more jumpy, which starts to worry him. Contrary to their mostly calm and quiet demeanour earlier this day, they are awfully skittish all of a sudden. Everything alright, buddy? You seem a bit tense, he inquires of his furry companion. His question gets completely ignored by a concentrated Bubbles who keeps sniffing and looking around in all directions. Suddenly, they freeze in place as they look behind the two of them. He can literally feel their fear in that moment. Uh-oh. Worried, he turns around as well, hoping to find out what scared them so much. What grieves him is an all too familiar sight. Completely standing out against the pure white background, he spots another crimson beast, stalking behind them with a few dozen meters of distance. Scenes from his fight flash in his mind. Shit! He doesn't hesitate even the slightest, as he grabs Bubbles' legs tightly, trying not to let them fall off, and goes into a full-on sprint towards the odd pillar, running for his dear life. He won't repeat his mistake if he can help it. Apparently knowing that something is up now, their pursuer starts chasing him down, as he can hear the sounds of something pushing itself through snow and loud snorting from behind him. Don't look back, don't look back. Within a split second, he searches for any kind of escape route from the little incarnation of death that is currently hunting him and his small friend. The sounds of their pursuer are getting louder and louder. He's already seen how quick those beasts are in a full sprint. Running away is not an option. He has to hide somewhere, fast. The crevice. Now that he knows where to go, he prays that he is going to make it there in time. Giving it all he has, he sprints towards the small opening in the pillar's side. Bubbles makes terrified noises, but he doesn't notice right now. All he cares about is getting to that gap in the ice as soon as possible. The beast is getting on him. He can clearly hear it. It's probably only a matter of a few meters before it catches up by now, but the crevice is right in front of him. The opening looks to be roughly child-sized, barely big enough for him to be able to slip into. He has to get the timing down, or he's either going to slam against the wall, or end up as Crimson Beast food. Letting out a terrified scream, he jumps forward, sliding through the small opening, and lands on his chest. This is going to hurt tomorrow. The sounds of snow getting kicked up and something heavy impacting the wall ring out behind him. Snow and little shards of ice splatter against his back, and the structure reverberates with the impact. Ecstatic, exhausted, and scared shitless, he lies on the floor of the small cave, the adrenaline high, making him feel a rush he never felt before. Woo! He shouts. He spits the snow he got in his mouth, and then wipes some off his face. His backpack opens during his rough landing, and his contents are spilled all across the icy floor. As he scans the inside of the small niche, he notices an odd feeling in his neck, or of the absence of something on his neck. Where's Bubbles? Fuck! He shouts, terrified that he lost them. This can't be happening. Of all the things that shouldn't happen, this one's the absolute worst. Bubbles? Bubbles! He calls out in an increasingly distressed tone, his voice echoing through the cold chamber. Did he miss his timing and leave them behind outside? No, right? The beast outside keeps clawing at him through the way too small opening, snorting wildly and breathing agitated, but he is a few arm's length out of his reach. His mind is running crazy with the wildest scenarios and self-blame. Bubbles? He calls out again, completely ignoring the crazed predator that's mere meters away from him. Bubbles! Then, finally, he can hear an annoyed huff from a small pile of snow next to him. A moment later, a visibly confused and upset baby beast emerges from it. His heart jumps with joy when he sees them unharmed. He instantly rushes towards them, tears of joy forming in his eyes. Bubbles, he calls out in a cracked voice, as he picks them up and embraces them. I'm so glad you're alright. Holding them out in front of his face, he looks them in the eye. They look both extremely scared, and super annoyed at the same time. Sorry, is all we can manage to say right now. Either not caring about him or prioritizing the immediate threat to their lives right now, Bubbles struggles against his grip. Oh. Not wanting to hurt or upset them, he sets them back on the ground. Meanwhile, their pursuer has not stopped their efforts and still tries to swipe at him through the small opening, his dagger-sized claws leaving deep grooves in the icy walls. Bubbles looks towards the entry, terrified, and takes a few steps back from it, visibly shaking. Seeing that their two-legged friend doesn't do so as well, they walk over towards him and tug on his pants, urging him to back away too. He has never seen them act like this before. Speechless, he backs away a few meters from the small entrance, until they stop pulling on his pants. His little companion sits down in front of him, looking him directly in the eyes. He could swear that they are trying to scold him right now. He looks at them with a quizzical expression, confused about what they want from him. Bubbles bark purrs at him as an answer, inching closer toward him and rubbing their head against leg, making his heart melt a little. I really don't get you, you know that? He tells them with a hoarse voice. But I'm so glad you're so alive. After cuddling against the bipedal alien, Bubbles takes a step back from him and looks towards the axe that's lying on the floor, along the scattered contents of the backpack. Confused by the display, he stands back up and looks at them. You want me to use the axe? Ignoring the uncanny levels of intelligence displayed by his companion right now, he feels again that familiar feeling of looking someone in the eye and knowing exactly what they are thinking. They don't make any facial expressions, but his ability to read their intentions has gotten better and better with each day that he spent with them. They can't fight the threat by themselves right now, so they need him to do it for them. He knows it, and they want him to know. How in the world? He asks incredulous. But his crimson-coloured friend just keeps their eyes locked on his, not responding to him at all. He could swear they're trying to tell him to fight back. Is he just imagining things? Is he finally going insane? But this is not the time for that. God damn it, he curses under his breath. Has he always been such a pushover? He navigates through the spilled contents of his backpack and grabs his axe, his heart racing just at the idea of facing that thing with nothing but his axe. Careful not to get caught by the wild beast that's still clawing at the entryway, he creeps closer. That paw is massive, is all he can think of in this moment, as he continues to wildly flail around. Waiting for the right moment, he raises the axe above his head, ready to strike at any moment. As the beast's claw briefly gets stuck, he uses that opening to strike with all of his might. Whack! He uses the blunt side of the axe to hit it square in its massive paw, causing it to cry out in pain with his trademark demonic screeching and pull back. That's gotta hurt. He cringes after clearly hearing a bone or two snap. Their pursuer is still right on the opposite side of the ice. He can hear their agitated breathing and cries, but apparently they learned their lesson. There's no more paw trying to claw at him right now. He lets out a sigh of relief and immediately takes a step back from the entryway. That beast not clawing at him does not equal not being in danger anymore, so he has to stay vigilant. Letting the axe hang by his side, he walks back over to Bubbles, who excitedly awaits him already, probably glad that he made it. Exhausted, he leans against the wall and takes a few deep breaths. This is too much for his poor heart. Shit. As Bubbles sits down in front of him, they look at him with a proud expression. I really don't get you. As if they understood him, they emanate their bubbling sounds again, and close their eyes with a prideful expression, clearly taking his words as praise. Or do they? It still feels as if this is just his imagination and loneliness, projecting human behaviour on an alien creature. Now, if you're able to help me pick up my stuff, that would be great, he jests. Giving Bubbles a passing head pat, he wanders over to his scattered belongings and starts putting them in his backpack again, still watching the entryway in case something happens. Just as he is almost done cleaning up the last ration, Bubbles walks up to him, clearly carrying something in their mouth. Hey, thank you. They set it down in front of him and look at him, expectantly. Yeah, who's a good killing machine? He praises them, as he rubs them past their sides. Enjoying the affection, but not satisfied yet, they still look at him expectantly. You want food? They sit there, showing no reaction. Huh, so no food. He thinks for a moment, and finally realizes something. Wait. Now, did you understand me? Visibly happy with that reaction, his little furry friend jumps in place and bark purrs at him. Are you serious? Do you really understand me? The universal expression of, haha, told you, is clearly written all across their face as they happily bubble at him again. No fucking way.